Axminster Tools. My name's Ben. We've got Craig behind the camera today. We're doing a workshop Wednesday. We're going to look at scroll saws today. Scroll saws, what would you use a scroll saw for? So this really, because of the size of the blade that we're using, it's really good machine for cutting tight curves, for coming around tight radiuses. We use it a lot in the workshop for cutting out quite intricate things. We all love a bandsaw, and there's, we've all got one in the workshop. But this is going to do a couple of things that the bandsaw can't quite achieve. And I'm talking about the tightness of the curve that we can cut. We've got two machines here today. We've got a trade and a craft one, and we're going to have a look at both of those machines and have a play around and encourage you to have a look, see how they work, and look at the differences between them. We've got a project here. This is a little family of elephants. Okay, you'll find this on our website. It's downloadable and printable as a PDF, but we're just going to show you step by step through this project and also talk about the machines as we do it. Okay, so first off, onto this trade machine. I think we're going to glue this down, get it ready for scrolling. To do that, there's a few different methods. I use this Copydex glue. You could use masking tape to stick that down. This for me is a nice quick and easy way. We can get working straight away. So this is like a silicone glue, and the thing I like about it is it kind of sticks together when we want to take this off the workpiece, because we're going to stick this onto our piece of timber, and we just want to get a nice even coating of this. And I'm looking through the paper and I'm trying to see where the design is underneath, because we don't want it lifting when we're cutting. So a fairly generous amount of this this Copydex or silicone glue. Okay, so I'm just going to flop that over. We've got a piece of tulip underneath, and we've kept this fairly thick. Okay, you see that's about 15 mil thereabouts, and what that will mean is when we finish the project, we can stand it up. It'll be freestanding to show it off once we're completed. Okay, so we're going to start off by cutting out this basic shape. Okay, we've got a couple of other little bits we can do here. This, you can see, is kind of captured in between our trunk of the elephant here, so we're going to need to do a little bit something different there. We're going to pierce that and thread the blade through when we cut it. Again, it's a good thing to know and a good thing to show you. Okay, so onto the trade scroll saw here. First things first, I'm just going to lift up this little hold down clamp. Okay, and we're going to set it just above the workpiece. So when we swing our project around, we're not going to foul on the bottom of this. It's not going to, kind of get stuck on there and get in our way. That's to hold the workpiece down so we don't lift, and we eliminates that chatter. Okay, so that's in place. Let's check our tension. Just going to pick on the back of the blade. We have got a tensioning knob up on the back of the machine here, and if I twist that one, you'll hear the pitch change on the blade. There is a quick cam lever there, which gives us a quick tension. That sounds about right. We're ready to go on that one. Our little blower is in place. That's going to clear the dust off of our cut line once we get going. I'm just bringing a stool in. We're going to make ourselves comfortable while we're working, and also goggles on. Trying to pick up a good place to start cutting into here. I think we're going to pick up on this line and cut onto this back leg here. I'm bringing the variable speed right the way down. This has got a variable speed on it, so I'm going to bring that right the way down before we turn it on. Then we've got a switch at the back, and then this one right on the front here. Nice and easy to get to if we need to turn the machine on and off. Now this is a brand new machine. It's a little extraction plate in under here has yet to be cut, so it may make some noises, which it won't do in operation once you've done a few cuts. Let's bring that speed up. And I'm going just over halfway with the speed there. We're not putting, it's not going flat out, so we're not putting too much strain on the motor. We're prolonging the life of the machine. And also it's going to eliminate any of the burning through friction. So cutting straight into the workpiece there, I'm going to adjust my nozzle so we're blowing that dust away so I can clearly see what we're doing here. And a nice steady feed rate. I'm starting to pick up on my line now. Now this project is really good for beginners. It's got some nice gentle curves that's going to encourage us to swing the workpiece round on the work table. Don't worry too much if we drift off this line, it's not the be all and end all. And once this template comes off, no one's going to have any reference to it, so even if we do drift off our line a little here and there, it's not going to matter. So you see how much this workpiece needs to twist around the table to follow that curve. Coming around the feet here. Now the blade in this scroll saw is the number 5 modified geometry blade. This is my blade of choice. It has a few teeth, upwards facing teeth on the bottom of the blade, which actually cuts from the underside. So on the way back up, this blade is cutting the bottom surface of this piece of timber, which gives you a really clean cut. It has quite a big spacing between the teeth, allowing for the waste, so it doesn't get bound up with all the dust that's coming off of there. It's a nice free cutting blade, and we'll talk a little bit about blades as we go along. So I'm just slowing down as I get into there. And I'm going to twist the workpiece around so we can pick up on that outside line again. A nice sweep around this here, and you can notice how the far the workpiece is turning. We're going to carry that cup right down into there. It's going to give us a little bit of detail on the finished piece, and then backtrack up back onto our line across the top of the head here. And again, don't worry too much about following that line bang on. What we find, if we're constantly making micro adjustments to try and keep on the line, you'll end up with a jagged end on the or a jagged edge, I should say, on the piece of wood. If we come off our line ever so slightly, we'll just gently bring it back on, and that will give you a much smoother finish on the outside of the workpiece. And we're following this outline right the way round until we've freed our elephants from this piece of wood. Again, I'm going to go right in around that ear shape. This is the kind of pace I like to work at. Some people work a lot faster, with the machine running faster as well. I just, there's no rush. I find when I rush things, that's when I start to make mistakes. So we'll take it at a nice steady pace. I'm putting pressure down onto the table to keep the workpiece nice and flat. I'm just going to nibble at that little bit where my cut came out, and then with the machine still running, just going to reverse that out, and that's our little group of elephants cut out from our piece of wood. Okay, you see the dust there on the surface. Wear a dust mask where you can. These machines are all set for extraction as well. We encourage you to use the extraction. You may not hear my voice over the extraction, that's why we've not put it on here today, but certainly encourage you to use extraction. None of this dust is very good for you. Wear a dust mask, anything you can to help stop breathing that in. Again, just coming around this ear shape, and you can see the workpiece is constantly turning. And this takes a little bit of practice. Your feed rate as the speed at which you turn it. And again, we're just going to reverse back up that line with the machine running. Okay. The great thing about scroll saws, they're a really nice, safe machine to use. And we've used these a lot with school groups and things like that. They're a really lovely thing. We cut a few bits out with my daughter at home. It's a really nice, safe machine and great to encourage children into the workshop. Again, we're keeping that downwards pressure on the table. Keep the workpiece nice and flat. And we're just coming around and we're taking out this little baby elephant. tend to slow down at the end of the cut. Sometimes when we're putting a lot of pressure on this very thin blade, it can sometimes flex backwards. Okay, if we're putting a heavy cut on, this blade will flex ever so slightly. And as we come to the end of the cut, if we've still got that forwards force on, quite often it will pop out, and sometimes will give you a little bit of a fright. So we're just very slowly, as we come out the end part of that cut, we're just going to slow down and release that forwards pressure and allow the blade just to cut its way out. Nice and gentle with that one. Okay. So we've taken our little baby elephant out. I think if we have a little look at the craft machine as well, we'll show you how that works. Very similar. You know, we're still in scroll saw territory. We've got our craft machine over here. Worth mentioning at this point, the blade clamping system. Okay, on our trade version, we've got quite a big thumb screw here that will bring in a little jaw to grab that blade. Okay, we're using pinless blades on that machine. Now this craft one has got actually one of the best clamping systems I've seen for a machine of this kind of level. This will accept both types of blade with this interesting little clamping system here. So we've got two jaws that will come together just with an Allen key. I'm just going to take the tension off here. We've got a tensioning knob on the back of the machine just to release some of that tension. Okay. Before undoing these clamps, we want to release that tension so then this arm doesn't suddenly spring up. So we get our Allen key in there, and you can see I've just opened this jaw up. That is the clamping system for the pinless blades. Along the top here, there's a little cutout where we can actually, I'm not sure if we can see these pins there, Craig.
Yeah.
There's pins on this blade, and they will just sit in that little cutout there, goes down through the table, and it's a similar setup underneath the table here. So really easy to go from pins to pinless blades, and a great little clamping system.
A little question, sorry for me.
No,
and what's the benefit, pin to pinless?
So pinless blades you usually find would be a little bit finer, a little bit thinner. So just as an example, sorry to lean into camera there. This is accentuated a little bit. Not all pinned blades are this big, but it's good as an example. You can see really the difference in size in the blades. All machines were pinned, you know, going back some time, and I think this is a kind of a more modern. The blades are better. They're thinner. They seem to be a bit stronger. I think introducing sometimes a little pin like that adds another component to the piece of metal, and can encourage a little weakness or something. But this is a straight piece of a straight piece of steel, really useful. Generally the pinned ones are a bit chunkier because they need the material to attach that pin onto. So just lowering that armature down, and then using this little screw here to bring that jaw over and to grab that blade. I'm gonna put some tension on, and that's what we want to hear, is that high-pitched clear ping. This one, so that's up nice and tight. Okay, you'll see it's similar with this. We have this hold down clamp that's got to be just above the workpiece. again we'll do our little test. We'll swing right round the blade and make sure that workpiece is nice and free moving. This one, it's all part of one component. So the blower on this one, the one that clears the dust off of your cut line, is built into our hold down clamp, and also this guarding here. Okay, now for our perspective it's important we keep all of that clamping in place. So back on with the goggles. The machine should be ready to go. Just make sure. I always turn these machines down nice and low when we first turn them on. Okay, so I'm going to increase the speed on that one, and we're ready to cut. So workpiece is going back up onto our scroll saw. Going to carry on around these lines. I'm just going to bring the speed up on that a little. That's better. I can feel it cutting a little bit more freely now. Like I'm not forcing the timber through. Just drifting off there a little bit. Remember, we're just going to gently bring that back onto our curve rather than make a quick change in direction. And the same things are applying. I'm using pressure, downwards pressure with my hand to hold the workpiece onto the table of the scroll saw, and we're just following those curves. Now we've got to almost a right angle here. Because these blades are so thin, we can do a quick change of direction here. Okay. And if we try that on any other machine where the blade's not so thick, we're likely just to twist the blade. Okay, a little ping there, that's what I was talking about before, where the blade pings out at the end. So that's good. We've got our pieces apart now, and I'm going to show you a little bit how we would remove this here. We've got this little section here, that's easy enough. We can do that without any changes to make. Back out. Good. Just haven't quite got to the bottom of that, so there we go. That's our little mouth section cut out on that one. Now, with these two, we've got two parts here which need to come out of our workpiece. This one you can see has a leading in line, so we can follow that line around and we can cut that piece out. this one here you can see is totally encapsulated by the wood around it. So we're going to need to do something a little bit different here. We're going to do what they call piercing. Generally we would drill a hole through here and then thread our blade right down through that hole that we've drilled, and then we can quite freely cut out that middle section. Piercing you can do on all sorts of projects. Quite often see it on bedside lamps and things like that. Here's a little something we got that we're working on. A little piece of timber, and you can imagine that backlit, but you can see all of these little holes, and each one of those is where we'd have to undo the clamping system on the scroll saw. We thread the blade through, and then we can clamp it back up and get to work. But you can imagine on a piece like this, there's quite a few changes to make on as we go through the project. Luckily, we've only got one to do here, so we'll be nice and quick and just put that through. So let's go to the drill. I'm just going to drill through this.
I guess that's the benefit again of the non-pin blades, is just to be able to thread it through a little drill hole and do that internal stuff.
Absolutely,
Not really possible with a pinned blade.
No, so some of these are very small. Some of these windows here are very small, okay? And to get that through that hole would be impossible. You can see where the pin would just foul on both sides. So good point. You know, something like that, the pinless one is just going to drop straight through that hole and allowing us to get to these really small details, okay, which is just not possible on the bigger pinned blade. So just dropping a hole straight through our elephant trunk here. That's our silicone glue. So just pop the device in, quick and easy, just drop a hole in there, and I'll show you how we thread this onto the machine. So I'm just going to bring my stool over, again get comfortable, make sure you're comfy if you're working at this machine for any period of time. So you'll notice there we've just released the little cam lock, or the cam lever. This armature on this one lifts right up, okay, really nice for these pierce projects. And then we want to thread our blade through the hole that we've made. So that go in there, excuse me a moment, and then we can lower this arm back down. Not too much to do, we just want to drop that blade back in there, thumb screw comes up, and I usually give that a wiggle, okay. It can get a little bit frustrating if we're pulling this back and it lets go straight away, so tighten that one up, give it a wiggle, and that's given us some tension on the blade straight away. Generally I'll tweak that a little bit more, and then we can cut out our little teardrop shape on this one. So I'm going to make a little cut down into that V shape, okay, and then I'm going to back out into our hole again, and again come into the bottom of that tear shape. And you just feel it release. Now I've got a bigger hole there. I'm just going to turn that off and get rid of this little plug that we've cut out. We'll put that to one side. And now, even with the machine running, the back of this blade has no teeth on it, so we can rest on that. So I can rest on that blade and we know it's not cutting. Okay? And I'm going to put it into that corner. and start my cut from there. So I'm just using my finger here nice and close to the blade. That's to get that downwards pressure. Being aware of where my hands and fingers are all the time. And then just easing it back into that teardrop shape. So now we've cut that right the way around, we can loosen off our cam lock. Open up that blade clamp, and then this should just slide straight off. We've got our piece of waste there. So this is starting to come together now. We've got one last cut to do on this one, and that is just a quick swirl. Let's get back together. So tension off on the cam lock. The blade goes back in between those two clamps. Now with these blades being so thin, sometimes it's quite hard to see actually what's going on here. These new Pegas clamp blocks, they're that nice red colour, so you can actually see what's going on a lot easier. Now I dropped the arm down a bit then, so I'm just readjusting our clamp, our hold down clamp. And then we're coming back in here, following our line. Let's get our blower working. And this is quite a small component now, but with the speed of the saw, I'm taking it nice and slow, nice and steady, and having complete control over where my hands are. Okay, and just felt that pop out at the end there. And that's all the cutting done on our little group of elephants here. Okay. So all to do now on that one would be to pull this off, to just remove our template. We could pop in some little drill holes for the eyes and encourage you to have a go at colouring these types of projects. They're going to look really nice with a little splash of colour. But that's our little group of elephants. Okay, we're just going to pop them there, and we'll come back to those a bit later. So a little look at scroll saws. I think down the line we'll do something a little bit more in depth. We'll look at setup. How to get it cutting just how you want it. So we will revisit these machines. This is really just to give you an idea of what they do, a couple of tips on technique and where we can find certain bits and bobs on the machine. But like I say, we will revisit these and we'll have a good go through our scroll saws. So I've been Ben. This is our Workshop Wednesday. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.